What NSFW fact did you learn at an embarrassingly late age? Please like, subscribe and comment so I can create more videos for you. I'm late to the party with this, but this is an embarrassing case of bad women's anatomy, made worse by the fact that I am woman. A couple of weeks ago I learned that when pregnant women are told in labor things like you are 7 cm dilated, I thought that they were literally talking about the vagina rather than the cervix. In my mind, the vagina literally just became a huge 10 cm open black hole into the body. I only learned a few weeks ago that it is the cervix they are talking about. Did I also mention that I am nearly 8.5 months pregnant? When I was a sophomore in high school, I was awkward and regularly picked on. I thought I was super cool wearing La Lux hair gel to style my hair with a duck butt. The stuff often dried and peeled and left white chunks in the hair if you touched it too much. So at the lunch table this girl goes, "It looks like you have jizz in your hair," and I didn't know what that word was, so I just said, "Yeah I do," and then nobody talked to me the rest of the day. Similar thing in 6th grade. 2 girls were gossiping about another girl and one said, "You know she's not a virgin, right?" I was friends with the alleged non-virgin, so I piped in with, "So what? I'm not either," having no idea what the word meant. When I was in high school, my parents, my best friend and I were going somewhere, parents in the front seat, me and my buddy in the back. While we were driving, my folks were listening to some oldies on the radio. There was an interview with the lead singer of and the Mysterians. In the interview, he said the song 96 Tears was originally called 69 Tears, but they changed the name because they knew the song wouldn't get any airplay with the original title. Me, I don't understand why it wouldn't get played on the radio. 96, 69, they're just numbers. Awkward pause. My best friend leaned into the front seat and said, "Mr. and Mrs. Groovy Brent, I've got this one." Later that day he explained what I had just asked my parents. That's rough. Related story. When I was younger I made a 69 joke in front of my parents, assuming they didn't know what it was. They didn't. I died inside. I'm an RN and I told a patient I needed her to put a tampon in before we collected her urine sample, because she had vaginal bleeding. Dart. She looked at me like I was an absolute idiot and said, "You can't do that. If you put the tampon in, how can the pee get out?" Mind you, this was a 25-year-old woman who also had 2 daughters. It took about 10 minutes of explaining for her to understand that you don't pee out of your vagina. I still don't think she believed me. Apparently, Netflix and chill has a slang meaning I didn't know it had. While getting my hair cut the other day by a 20-something hairstylist, the conversation turned to what we were doing that weekend. Not having a lot going on that evening, I told her I wasn't doing much. She said the same. She said she was just going to sit at home that evening and relax. So I said, "Oh, Netflix and chill." The look on her face told me immediately I had put my foot in my mouth. I simply smiled at her innocently. After a few awkward moments she said, "You don't know what that means, do you?" I confessed that I didn't. Like trying to explain something to her clueless grandfather, she made me aware of the subtext meaning. So, that was an uncomfortable haircut. You should have just owned it after she explained it to you and come back with, "So, Netflix and chill?" I learned in elementary school that babies were made by a male's sperm coming out of the testicles, making its way to a female's egg and fertilizing it. What they failed to mention was how the sperm got there. I thought that the sperm fizzed and foamed through the skin of the bowel sac, and you rubbed the fizz foam concoction up against the vagina while the sperm figured out the rest. I didn't realize the truth until the end of 6th grade when I witnessed my first porn flick with my best friends. It wasn't until earlier this year that I admitted this was my understanding to my GF. My school tried to keep sex ed as PG as possible, never mentioning or showing diagrams of penetrative sexual intercourse. They just use the terms sex and intercourse without any sort of context to paint an accurate picture for us. My GF thinks it's absolutely hilarious. I thought it was fairly embarrassing. Knowledge is power. My school tried to keep sex ed as PG useless as possible. Sorry for you. And X200B. Not me, but an old roommate of mine. He comes in and asks me if my husband and I were gonna have sex that night. I told him probably not because my husband got home late. He then asks me if his girlfriend can have one of my birth control pills because they didn't have any condoms. I told him no because I have to take it. He asks me why because I said my husband and I weren't gonna do anything. I told him you have to take it at the same time every day for it to work. He looked at me like an idiot, and that was the day I had to explain birth control to my 23-year-old roommate. I remember when I first saw a container for the pills. They were like in a spiral and had a few different colors. My first thought was that taking the pill must be like decoding a Mayan calendar. Not me, but I have two hilarious stories about this. I work with surgeons and often they are sheltered sweethearts. Neither of these stories involve patients around. They are either in the lounge or before or after patients are around. Story 1. A few of us were making silly motorboat jokes to each other. An attending, established doc for those that don't know, mid-40s age, walked in and said, "I also motorboat. I have a spot on the lake." Someone had to explain to him what motorboating was. He has 3 kids. Story 2. Ironically, same attending. A resident who is 27 already a doctor, but still training working with attending, was about to get married. He came to the room, boasting about his bachelor party and how it was all his guy friends from growing up, school, and residency. He was so excited to show us and the attending the video of all his guy friends giving him a golden shower. None of us explained that a champagne shower is not called a golden shower. We just let him go around the room and say things like, "All my friends gave me a golden shower. Look, I have video." He and the attending were so into the video and I couldn't help but gawk and hold back extreme laughter at the situation. I quote the id crowd all the time. Even still now, I'm 22. So it's pretty sad to begin with. Thing is, I'd frequently high 5 people and belt out Eiffel Tower. When doing so, it'd often be met by a couple of laughs whether they've seen tick or not. However, when I'd start doing this to my friends who are girls, they'd often pull a weirded out face, some flat out saying what the fuck. After a quick Google last year I discovered that an Eiffel Tower is a threesome sex act. Spalling. Age: 22 women have to wipe after peeing. I thought they just wiggled on the seat or something. It was before leaving for date with an ex and she said I gotta pee right quick. A minute later she yells 40p. I say I gotcha but thought you just needed to pee her. Yeah, I'm done. I need to wipe. It was then I realized. I never told her I didn't know, but she kept asking me at dinner that night what was wrong and that I looked troubled. That made me laugh. Just some poor guy, harrowed by this newfound knowledge, staring into the abyss of his plate, because girls wipe after they pee. How to pee using a urinal. I just never learned how to do it. I always used the stalls and would lower my pants and pull down my underwear. Then one day, I went to the beach and really had to pee. For some reason I didn't want to go in the ocean. I think we were leaving, and I went to the bathroom. Turns out there were no stalls, but I really had to go. So I took my 18-year-old self to the urinal and just figured it out. It was a good day. Not me, but the other guy. I had a vasectomy after my son was born at my age 28. It was sort of common knowledge thereafter around the office that I had done this, and that also 2 years later my had wife left me and our preschool age kids, which was really for the best. I was a single dad. The following exchange happened when my son was around 10. A 20-something male co-worker came up to me one day and asked, "You still have sex, right?" My answer was my girlfriend wouldn't have it any other way. Laughing. Then he asked, "Since you've had that vasectomy, after you have sex, what comes out?" With a straight face I gave him my best answer. Sand. I had to be probably 17 or so when I learned that girls don't grow a vagina when they hit puberty. I had babysat girls and changed their diapers before, but I didn't look at their business. That's why I was always so confused when you heard about people doing bad things with underage girls. I thought if they hadn't hit puberty, then there's no vagina, so then what do they do? I also didn't know about the Christian poop hole loophole either. At 18 years old, I had no fucking clue that balls just moved on their own. I sat and stared at his ball sack for a good 10 minutes, just in absolute awe. I felt like I was tripping on acid. The skin moved up and down, swirled around, turned to the left. I have never had my mind more blown than that moment of watching balls move around for the first time. Edit Goddammit guys, my highest comment is about balls. I thought this was a known fact that the skin can just move right before your eyes. Fascinating, is it not? I moved to Spain in my early 20s and had the best pour of Heineken I'd ever tasted. I was told by a friend of mine in the States that the reason it tasted so good was because it wasn't filled with preservatives, as the brewing plant was closer to me living in Spain. Mentioning this fun fact to my new co-workers, I used the word preservativo, which I assumed was the proper word for preservative. Having grown up speaking only the Spanish that my parents and grandparents spoke, keeping in mind that certain words never even entered my vocabulary, and taking into account how staunchly Catholic my mom and grandma were, I never learned that preservativo isn't the word for preservative, it's actually the word for condom. So when I casually mentioned that the Heineken in Spain tasted better on account of not having any condoms in it, I had no idea why I was getting so many weird looks and outright laughs from my colleagues. Thanks for the heads up, Ana Rosa. A little too late. Still appreciate it. I grew up very sheltered, like Catholic school sheltered. I lost my virginity at age 22 to my boyfriend at that time. I was walking around in my underwear when my boyfriend said, "Holy shit, ya gotta take a weed look at that thing. It looks like tarantula legs coming around your underwear." I'm like, what? He then had to explain to me that some women groom their pubes. I seriously looked like Chewbacca was stuffed down in my underwear. Makes me shudder too. Think about what people thought when they saw me in my swimming suit, with my pal Chewie in my crotch. What ménage à trois meant? I was like 35 before I found out what it meant. I was cooking dinner for two ladies one evening. They came over to the stove while I was cooking and one said ménage à trois. Being the dumbass that I was, I told her sorry, I don't know any French recipes. They looked at me and laughed at me. We then ate the dinner I cooked and they soon left my place. I then dialed up my 2400 baud modem and connected to the infant internet and found out just how much of a dumbass I was. All that endless and effortless porn can really fuck you up. You get desensitized to real women. You get so many dopamine rushes from it that you can downregulate your dopamine receptors. This leads to inattention and low arousal in normal situations. You end up needing to need more and more extreme things to get you off. I remember in my preteen days before I was exposed to porn, I would masturbate to the memory of a girl telling me about her awesome hobbies. Now I need to find the perfect video that hits all the fetishes I'm into to get off. There are a lot of comments already, so this will likely be buried, but I'd just like to say that despite how hilarious some of these are, I hope none of you ever feel like it's too late to learn about or understand sex and the human body. Some people are so embarrassed about stuff like this and then see a thread like this and feel even worse, but there is nothing to be ashamed of. The sexual education almost everywhere on this planet is shit, frankly, and those are the only people who should feel embarrassed by this thread, the ones making the curriculums. Take some time. Google some stuff. Read a book on female sex if you're a guy, lesbian, curious, straight girl. Read a book on male sex if you're a woman, gay, curious, straight guy. There is so much easily accessible information out there in books and on the net nowadays. Make sure it's a credible source, i.e., not cosmopolitan, and then absorb as much as possible. You can never know too much and you might even have some fun because of what you learned. There is always something new to learn for most of us. No matter what gender, age, sexual orientation. My best friend and I are women in our 30s. She is a single mother with a 5-year-old boy. At work one day we were talking about kids and she mentioned that lately her son is being lazy about wiping his penis after he pees and she doesn't know how to correct it. I just kind of sat there with a blank face for a moment and our co-worker Lola turned around and said, "Wired." She did not believe me when I told her that guys don't wipe their penis. I had to call my husband and put him on speakerphone to tell her. With a horrified look she said, "You mean every time I go down on a guy, there could be pee on his dick ?